Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka Murdoch from 5 Minute Language. Welcome back to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So it's been a while since the last time I uploaded a video to this channel. It's been a bit busy in the last few weeks. I also had a bit of a problem with my eye. You can still see it. It's a bit better now, but I thought this shouldn't stop me from offering my advice to you guys on my YouTube channel. So here I am with a new video, and this time I'm going to be talking to you about productivity. And productivity is something that many language learners are interested in because it's something that can really affect your progress in a foreign language. And there's usually two different reasons why you may not be productive. So the first reason is that you don't have time, or you feel like you don't have time to learn the language. So you're not really being very productive, you're not learning as much as you could in the time that you've got. And the second reason why you may not be productive is because you procrastinate and you haven't got a system for making sure that your learning actually happens. So today I'm going to give you a few different tips that have worked for me and other people I've worked with for improving your productivity. So obviously language learning is a long process, it takes time, but there are certain things you can do to optimize your learning. So let's get started. So the first one is quite a simple one. It's to do with learning vocabulary. But basically if you use it, you will make sure that you don't have to relearn the same thing over and over again. So one of the reasons why people tend to be less productive than they could be is because they keep relearning the same material over and over again. Leave me a comment if you've ever done this before. If you've kind of learned something and then you had to relearn it and then you had to relearn it again. So with spaced repetition, I've got a separate video on that. I'm going to link it in the description box, so make sure you check it out. But essentially, spaced repetition is a way of learning vocabulary that ensures that you don't forget it, because you're kind of repeating, reviewing the new vocabulary at regular intervals. Then you extend the intervals to make sure that you can still remember it. So you're kind of stretching yourself with every revision session. And that way, that vocabulary is more likely to stick, and you're less likely to have to relearn it. And obviously, if you don't have to relearn it, you are more productive because you can focus on new words rather than relearning the same ones over and over again. So the second one is something I talk about in my videos a lot, and that's learning words as part of sentences. So definitely learning in context is more efficient, more productive than learning something in isolation. So when you're learning words in isolation, you're less productive because you then have to learn how to use them in a sentence. Whereas if you're learning them as part of a sentence, if every time you look up a new word, you look up examples of sentences, then you're kind of doing both things at the same time. So you're learning the word and you're learning the context at the same time. And that's really, really helpful. That improves your productivity because you can then move on to using that word in context straight away without having to learn how to do it. My third tip is using mnemonics to memorize vocabulary. And again, it's something I've spoken about before, and I'm going to link the video in the description box as well. And it's basically a technique for memorizing difficult words by creating different kind of images in your imagination. So you're creating an image that will help you memorize the difficult word. And it makes you more productive because you are less likely to forget the word and you're more likely to memorize it quickly using that kind of mental association. So make sure you check my video that I will link in the description box about how that works exactly. So my fourth tip is about focusing on areas of improvement and stepping out of your comfort zone. So a common temptation for a language learner is that you focus on the things that you feel comfortable with. So things that you already know how to do quite well, because they make you feel better. Because, if you're talking in a way that is kind of within your comfort zone, you are more confident, you feel like you're making progress, that you feel like you're good at the language. But if you step outside the comfort zone, that makes you a little bit uncomfortable and maybe slightly demotivated because you're making mistakes, you don't know how to say something, you forget words, you forget grammar structures. But if you focus on those areas of improvement regularly, that's where you will start making progress and you will become more productive because you will be able to learn more. So rather than just sitting inside that comfort zone, you will be stretching yourself and you will be making progress more quickly. So make sure you know what those areas are. So for example, if you're learning French, it might be the subjunctive, or it might be the past simple tense, for example, which is quite tricky for language learners. So if you know what those areas of improvement are, make sure that every week you focus a little bit of your attention on that and you practice your skills in that area. Okay, the next one is a classic rule for productivity, is the 20-80 principle. So if you haven't heard about this, it's basically about focusing on the 20% of things that will bring you 80% of benefits. So you do, so for example, when it comes to learning vocabulary, that would be learning the 20% of words that you are most likely to be using in everyday conversations, and that will give you 80% of the things that you need to communicate fluently. So instead of learning, obscure vocabulary that you're not very likely to use in everyday conversations, you're learning things that are definitely going to help you. And this is a rule that you can apply to learning vocabulary or learning new concepts or grammar structures, and it will definitely improve your productivity because you will be focusing on the things that really matter rather than just learning things at random. Okay, the next tip is about incorporating language learning into your everyday activities. And again, that's something that I talk about a lot in my videos and on my blog. And it's basically about creating kind of routines that allow you to learn a little bit of the language you're learning during your everyday activities. So maybe you've got a little gap when you're having breakfast every day and you're not doing anything else. That's maybe a good time to listen to a podcast in a foreign language or do a little bit of vocabulary work. So make sure that if you're a really busy person and you feel like your busyness is preventing you from being productive, identify those areas where you can really put a little bit of language learning into your everyday activities and see how that can change your productivity levels. The next one is actually something that I use on a daily basis. Anything I'm doing sort of work related or language learning related, or when I'm learning anything new, I like to use the Pomodoro Technique. And basically it's a technique that involves setting a timer for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break between those 25-minute sessions. So the idea is that you're learning intensively, or you're focusing intensively on something for 25 minutes, not longer than that, because that's kind of supposed to be an optimal amount of time that you focus on something. And then you take a little break of 5 minutes, you step outside, you do something else, you get a cup of coffee, and then you go back to the Pomodoro and you set your timer for another 25 minutes. So instead of working for something intensively for 2 hours, you're basically doing 4 different Pomodoros or 3 different Pomodoros with little breaks in between. And I find that helps because you've got the timer there. It's easier to switch off different distractions, such as, checking your phone or going on social media when you know that the clock is ticking and you've only got 17 minutes left out of the 25. You can adjust the intervals if you want, so you can take a longer break or you can do a shorter Pomodoro, for example, if that works for you. So there's lots of timers. If you're working on your computer, there's one called Tomato Timer, which I use all the time, and it basically beeps when it reaches the end. So I definitely recommend that. And my final tip is about scheduling things in. So again, something I talk about a lot. If you schedule it in, it is going to happen. So if you want to be productive, make sure that you've got a technique for scheduling your language learning into your day, your week, or your month. So I've got a separate video about different tools you can use for scheduling things in, such as Trello, Google Sheets, or just a calendar. So I'm going to link that in the description box as well. But essentially, when you schedule things in, you will become more productive because you will be able to see, how much you're doing and what you're actually doing, and what you're about to be doing that week or that month. So I hope you found these tips helpful. Like I said, make sure you subscribe to my channel and give this video a like, and also leave me a comment to let me know what you're doing to stay productive when learning a foreign language. And I'll see you next time. Bye!